You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Angelina Martin and Stephanie Sanchez.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the 49 Carats Podcast. It's our 36th episode. Season's over. We've established that. So we are back this week to talk about what happened in 2021 and what's next. So as usual, I am half of the 49K pod, Angelina Martin, and I am here with Steph Sanchez. Steph, I'll kick it over to you. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing better. I'm in a better mood. I'm like putting the season behind me and looking towards the next season.
That's a really good outlook to have. Just when I played softball, my coach would always say, like, turn the page, you know, if you did something bad. So it's time to turn the page and look ahead to next season. But before, we're gonna talk about this season still. But before we do that, let's look to the past. Steph, do you have a tidbit of history for us?
I do, and this one we're all pretty familiar with. So this week in 49ers history, actually yesterday, February 6th, 2017, the 49ers hired Kyle Shanahan as their head coach, and it was just a grand old time for the franchise, you know, coming from as low as they were. I remember how excited I was about this hire. I still feel very great about it. Kyle Shanahan, he's 43, 44 as head coach, including the playoffs. As we know, the first two seasons were, you know, very turbulent, a lot of drama, lots of losses. But between 2019 to now, Kyle Shanahan has a 33-22 record, 4 playoff wins, 2 NFC championship game appearances, and 1 Super Bowl appearances. So not too shabby.
He just had to warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Kyle's still here despite having some haters this season. He's not going anywhere, so get used to it. He's going to improve upon that record next year, hopefully. And speaking of coaches, wow, a lot has happened in terms of coaching for the 49ers. So on our last episode, we talked about all the drama with John Embry. We talked about that on the pod, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Well, it wasn't really drama. It was like speculation.
So now we know.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
You want to talk about what we know now?
Yeah, so now we know that John Embry, the reason that he won't be back with the team was because his contract expired. So it wasn't any crazy conspiracy that we cooked up or anyone else cooked up. Is you know, just that. So they'll be looking for a new tight end coach this offseason.
Yeah, and you know, something else that was really exciting, they hired an assistant head coach, Anthony Lynn. We know him, you know, more so from his time as head coach with the Chargers, but he was also the offensive coordinator in Detroit last season. So think of that what you will. I don't think they had a horrible offense. I think they were a sucker for the circumstances. You know, I just don't think they drew the best straw in the bag. I really like the Lions. Okay. I have a soft spot for them. Like, I feel bad. So I'm hoping that he comes here and does great things. And it's also great to see Black coaches be hired, and shout out 49ers for continuing that diversity on the staff. He is known as a running backs coach or not? Does he like running back in his offense stuff?
Oh yeah, he loves running backs. I would say all of the running backs in the time that he's coached have been pretty successful. Actually, in the last 5 years between his time with the Chargers and in Detroit, his running backs have had at least 90 receptions per game, so they get involved in the pass game as well. And that's a good sign for a team that has Debo as well.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like something that might be in our wheelhouse, maybe. Speaking of coaches who enjoy a good run game in their offense, Mike McDaniel is gone. We knew it was coming. I think we hoped that it wouldn't happen, but the Miami Dolphins have hired him as their head coach, which is huge because, I mean, the guy doesn't have that much experience, right? So what does it say about him as a coach that Miami swooped him up?
Well, I think it goes with the fact that so many coaches in the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree have gone on to be very successful. And I think the biggest endorsement for Mike McDaniel is the fact that Kyle Shanahan has had him everywhere he's gone. So I think there's really no bigger endorsement than that, and just the fact that now that he was promoted to offensive coordinator last year, it kind of, I mean, I think he was doing the same things, but the fact that he had that title, I think it gave other teams, he got on their radar. So I think this is a great hire for Miami. I mean, wish him the best. Obviously, we're all going to miss him here in San Francisco. He had some pretty entertaining moments in his pressers as well. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to tune in to some Dolphins pressers, I think, once in a while.
Yeah, that's the best part about being just, an NFL fan in general, is because there are a lot of moving parts, but you can continue to watch those guys when they do go to new teams. So wishing the best for Mike McDaniel, unless, they play the 49ers sometime in the future, then not wish him the best. They do. Yeah. Okay.
That'll be interesting. A little scared.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be fun. So of course, because Miami poached him from the 49ers, the 49ers will receive a 2022 third round pick and a 2023 third round pick. The question is, will they replace him? We know that Kyle Shanahan has ran without an offensive coordinator before. So what do you think, Steph? Do you think that they're going to replace him? Do you think that Anthony Lynn will kind of play a hybrid role, or what do you see happening?
Yeah, that's the big question. I do feel like with the Anthony Lynn hire, there was probably some writing on the wall that the 49ers probably expected Mike McDaniel to be hired by the Dolphins. So I do think he will take care of some of that role. But another name is Bobby Slowick, who's the passing game coordinator. So on the not the other side of the ball, but Mike McDaniel was the run game coordinator much of his time here, and so it makes sense if Bobby Slowick kind of went in that trajectory as well. Another name that people have brought up is Pep Hamilton, but literally right before we went live, we got the news on the timeline that he was promoted to offensive coordinator in Houston, so he is off the table. I would have loved that. I think he would have been great here, but Bobby Slowick makes sense. There could be some other names that emerge, or like we mentioned, they might not even have a designated offensive coordinator. We know that Kyle Shanahan calls the plays.
Yeah. And D'Amico Ryans is the only coordinator left because Richard Hightower was hired by the Chicago Bears. We saw, obviously, he's the former 49ers special teams coordinator. That was kind of funny to watch unfold because, I mean, when you look at his resume and his track record and his experience and, obviously the Chicago Bears and fans are excited about this hire. And it's easy to see why they would be, but I feel like 49ers fans in recent months have become a little jaded off of Hightower. Me personally, I feel like the special teams unit redeemed themselves in the playoffs. They showed up when it counted. But I completely understand everyone just kind of being like, sayonara, like thanks for the memes. But it was just funny watching like some fans celebrate the signing and then 49ers fans just laughing in their faces. It was pretty funny. So what are they going to do on special teams? Rich Bisaccia is out of the question. He was hired by the Packers. That's who I would have loved to see. But I know you threw out the name Joe Judge, Steph, which, I mean, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, he's been a name that people have been mentioning, and that's one that certainly makes sense. He spent some time with the Patriots as their special teams coordinator, and as we know, he was with the Giants for the last 2 seasons as well before he was let go. That was a turbulent time for him as the Giants head coach, but if he came here, he wouldn't have to be a head coach. So I think he's much more suited for a special teams role. And I think the 49ers are just an amazing landing spot for coaches. You see how many of our coaches have gone on to become head coaches somewhere else. So, the 49ers are a great stop for anyone who wants to eventually become a head coach. So maybe if Judge wants to do that again in the future, which I'm sure he does, this would be a great place for him to show off and build up his resume.
Yeah, maybe just take a step back really quick, just for a minute. I mean, yeah, he's definitely proven himself as a coordinator, not so much as a head coach. So I think you should take your advice, Steph.
Yeah.
All right. So the San Francisco 49ers, they went 10-7 in the regular season. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. We were like Paul Rudd eating wings on hot ones pretty much the whole season, saying, hey, look at us. Who would have thought? Not me. But they did it. It was a great season. Didn't end the way we wanted. I don't think it ended the way we even expected because I know myself personally, I wasn't sure if they would even make the playoffs. So couldn't be disappointed with the way things turned out. So they went 10-7. I went back into the 49K pod archives.
Uh-oh.
It's so nice to just, have all the episodes and go back and see all the stupid predictions we made. It was really fun. So I went back and I looked at, our predictions for the season before it even began. This was after preseason, prior to week 1. Steph, she's a good fan, man. She said that the Niners were going to go 14-3. I love it. I respected it. You were close. And I said that they were going to go 12-5. So what do you think hearing that 14-3, 12-5 prediction?
I mean, we were just beaming with optimism. There was a lot to feel good about with this team. And I mean, hey, they proved us wrong the first half of the season, but they had us in the first half, not gonna lie. They turned it around, and I'm still proud of them and what they were able to accomplish this season.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, like I said, couldn't have asked for more given the circumstances, especially when we hop right into week 1. We're just going into the season. We're going to talk about it, talk out our feelings. So week 1 versus the Lions, that was a dub. Steph and I both predicted it would be a dub. But, it wasn't all fun and games. Jason Verrett went down with a torn ACL. Raheem Mostert went down with an injury. We originally didn't know how long he was going to be out. And then it turns out that he needed knee surgery and would be out for the season. So those were 2 devastating blows right after a season that was littered with injuries. That was just the worst way. It was such a weird win, right?
Yeah.
There were so many bad things that happened. One of the good things that happened, though, was that Lance scored his first NFL touchdown. I believe it was the first touchdown of the season. So that was exciting. He got in the game during those early games. So that was cool. But week 1 thoughts?
I mean, you nailed it. The fact that those 2 injuries were so big and damning, and you wonder how, where do they go from here?
Why God?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they got the dub, but really it felt weird. It felt like there was a cloud already hanging over the season. I mean, but in week 2, they ended up winning anyway, despite not having Verrett and Raheem. But one thing that fans noticed is that Ayuk was nowhere to be found in week 2, and there's talk about him being in the doghouse and whatnot, and that kind of lasted for a few more weeks after that. But we were 2-0, so we were feeling great despite it all.
We were 2-0. We were feeling great, but honestly, going back to that start to the season, we weren't feeling great.
It was like
those 2 wins, we almost lost those games, which was actually insane, to think about. But yeah, the whole doghouse thing and that that popping up in week 2 was a fun little side story to talk about, especially, given what Ayuk did during his rookie year. We thought that it was just gonna, I mean, sky's the limit, right? So, yeah, definitely something to watch the rest of the season. Will Brandon Ayuk stay in the doghouse? Will he redeem himself? We don't even know what's going on. We have our tinfoil hats on. Don't miss it. The 49ers' first loss of the season. Oh, well, actually, week 2 versus the Eagles, we both said that the 49ers were going to win that game as well. So we nailed that. Week 3 versus Packers. Steph, you predicted a win. I predicted a loss for this one. I don't know. I was just feeling pessimistic, I guess, but I was right because they did lose. We all remember that game. Mosley was back from injury. K'Wan Williams got hurt in that game. I remember that. Sadly, I remember every single game. The team sputtered. Kyle Shanahan got plenty of blame. The talks of him not being aggressive enough, the talks of him not being able to manage a clock began. What do you remember from this game, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where some of the things from week 1 and week 2 kind of just piled up, and like it just became unsurmountable. Like more injuries, you know, more criticism for Kyle Shanahan, and it began some discourse of, should he be fired, which me and you made fun of because that was just always ridiculous to suggest. But yeah, that one hurt. I feel like that was the beginning of the sputter for the whole team. I mean, really, it was just downhill from there. Until week 10, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about. But in week 4, like I said, like the Packers just started the downhill spiral, and the Seahawks just continued it, and the Seahawks continue to own the 49ers. Of course, in that first week 4 game against the Seahawks in the season, there was no Elijah Mitchell. Norman and K'Wan Williams were out, so they were short on corners. That was like kind of the story of the beginning of the season, right? Yeah. And also Robbie Gould got hurt in pregame. Like, what? How does that happen? Like, a kicker gets hurt in pregame. I don't. So he was placed on IR after that game, and Wishnowski, who then had to, be on Gould duty, he missed a field goal and a point after. So, dude, not good. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, his first injury of the season, his first of many, he hurt his calf. And Trey Lance, we got our first like real sort of taste of Trey Lance and what he might look like in this offense. But, it wasn't what we had hoped or what we thought it would look like. He didn't look ready.
They still almost came back.
They still almost came back. Which caused the Trey Lance should start crowd to, just get louder, right? And of course, also the Kyle Shanahan should be fired crowd got louder after that loss as well. So I don't know. What'd you think about that game?
It was horrible because the Seahawks were a terrible team last season. And to get swept by them, I mean, that was the first of 2 losses to them, but it just wasn't fun to watch. Especially, you never want to watch your punter out there kicking field goals. Like, no one wants that. It's painful. But Steph, you actually got this one right. You predicted a loss. I predicted a win, and that's that. We're moving on to week 5 against the Cardinals. This is hilarious. You and I both predicted that we were going to sweep the Cardinals this season. So that didn't go well. So obviously we both said this was going to be a win. We know they lost to the Cardinals. Kittle was out this game. He was placed on the IR, and Trey Lance was able to start because of that calf injury to Jimmy. It was just not good. Like, everyone was so excited for this, and he just didn't look ready. He only ran the ball 16 times. He suffered, actually 16 times, kind of a lot.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why I said only. He ran the ball 16 times, but it wasn't like the type of runs that we were expecting. Like, it was a lot of just like up the gut and like just him taking crazy hits, and we were all just like, what is going on? So yeah, he suffered a knee sprain that game, and then that was like after seeing, that much action from Lance, that was really when the debates began of who should be starting. Steph, I mean, it's hard to remember going all the way back to that week 5 loss, but do you remember if you thought Lance should start or not?
The only reason I think like a lot of us were considering it at this point, it wasn't because like Trey Lance looked amazing in that game, because like let's be honest, he didn't really. And I think part of that was the fact that he didn't look ready. It didn't look like they had an offense for him at all, really. But I think part of what made people want to see more of him was the fact that we lost again. It's like,
Yeah.
where is this going? Like
Yeah.
what is the point of having Jimmy Garoppolo out there, if we're just going to keep losing, that kind of thing. So, from that aspect, I understood, people being interested to see more of Trey Lance, because it seemed like the more playing time he got, like, he did kind of settle down every time. So I don't know. I mean, if I recall, we were both kind of on the same page where we wanted to see a little more Trey Lance.
It's almost like seeing him and seeing the potential, but how much farther he still had to go made us want him to play. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because we were like, we might as well use this season as preparation for next season, because obviously this season is going nowhere. Boy, were we wrong.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Crazy. So after the Cardinals, we had the bye week. We had Kiana Martin as a guest. That was so fun. And then after that was week 7. What happened?
Oh Lord. I mean, this loss pissed me off the most because one, it was after the bye week, and it's after, they had lost so many games that we felt that they should have won, or at least been a little bit more competitive in. And they come out after the bye week, extra time to prepare, and they lose again, and they just look the same. Jimmy Garoppolo played terrible. I mean, he came back. He came back from his calf injury, but like, at what cost? It's 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. Jaquaski Tart also got hurt in that game, and he ended up being out a few weeks after that. And I think me and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we're ready to shut it down.
Yeah, and it's funny looking back at this when you go and see that they had lost 4 in a row. It's like, well, no wonder we were like,
yeah. Yeah, I think we were fair in our wanting to see Trey Lance and like wanting to shut it down, but
yeah, I'm remembering everything now. Jimmy looked horrible. Yeah, it's fun to remember. And then Steph, just as he always does, Jimmy pulled through just in the nick of time, right? Especially knowing what we know now, knowing that Kyle said at one point there was thoughts of letting Trey Lance start, and just, but we knew they had to be out of playoff contention before that would happen. So as Jimmy does, week 8 against the Bears, we both predicted this win, and Jimmy had a homecoming like no other. He was the hero of Chicago. I mean, they beat the Bears. Kinlaw was placed on the IR this week, so that was huge. And then the 49ers traded for the Texans for Charles Omenihu. They gave up a future late round pick for him. So this was when we kind of started to be like, okay, this team can play well. Jimmy played great. He made the throws he needed to make. The offense was looking like kind of like old times a little bit. And this is the trend that we saw with Jimmy over the years. Like right when you've just had enough of him, he comes out and has a great game. And that's exactly what happened in week 8.
Yeah, I really felt like this win like set them up for the turnaround. It's not exactly where the season really turned around, but like just the fact that Kinlaw placed on IR, that's really what led to Eric Armstead moving inside
Exactly.
Eventually. And then the trade for Omenihu, that was huge. We had no idea how big of a trade that was, really, because like they gave up so little for him, and he didn't do all that much with the Texans. But boy, like that was a great pickup for them. And it was really the first time in the season where the offense actually looked like a cohesive unit. And
Yeah.
so it was that was a good week. I know it was just the Bears, but it's really what like set them up for the rest of the season, I think.
Definitely. And then they went to week 9.
Oh yeah, that's me.
No, you're good.
Yeah, in week 9 they played the Cardinals. They would lose, so they got swept by the Cardinals this season. It's crazy. See, this one's crazy because this is what we were saying, that this team gaslights us. So they won in convincing fashion in week 8, right, against the Bears, and you're thinking this is good. And then you find out that the Cardinals are going to be without Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green. They were basically giving the game away.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were just like, they were like, meh.
Yeah,
we'll just rest them up one more week.
You can have this one. And so they were without all those players, and then even Chase Edmonds like was out after the first drive. I think he got hurt. And then Kittle was back from his injury. So hey, they're gonna do great. They're gonna win. Wow. Somehow this team managed to lose that game, and to this day I don't know how. But me and Angie were right back again in this like cancel the season, like just let's move on. It was such a bad loss, and there once again it was talk about there was no accountability, no identity on this team, no leadership. McGlinchey also got hurt in that game, and he was placed on IR, which we were all worried about. So it was just not looking good after that.
Yeah, and of course, as I said earlier, we predicted a Cardinals sweep in 2021. That did not happen. So we both thought they were going to win that game. That was our prediction. But so after that game, that was the huge word, right? Was identity. And who is this team? Like, what are we watching? What's the game plan? Right. Goddamn, I just smacked my desk. Did they just like smash all of that criticism out the window week 10 against the Rams, which by the way, we both predicted would be a loss on Monday Night Football at Levi's Stadium. I think we thought this was going to be like the Matt Stafford, like, I don't know, you wish you had me game, even though Matt Stafford had nothing to do with anything. But so we know they beat the Rams on Monday Night Football. They found their identity again. They were running. Garoppolo was doing those short, efficient passes into tight coverage. Like everyone looked like themselves, the greatest version of themselves. And this is really when Deebo Samuel started to make a name for himself on the national stage. I mean, this Monday Night Football primetime game, he couldn't have played any better. He emerged as an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. He was doing cute little poses in the end zone. He's running around with a chain around his neck. Like Deebo was feeling himself, and he took that energy and just like drove the 49ers through the rest of the season, if you ask me. And this is when it all started. Jimmy was back to good Jimmy. We were like, we just kicked the shit out of the Rams, who were supposed to be the Super Bowl favorites. Are we going to the Super Bowl? Like, is this happening? It was a really, really good day. And I was there. It was a great week.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. You were the good luck charm that turned the season around.
Charm. Dude, I'm saying. And then so after this win, the 49ers were half a game out of that 7th playoff seed. So again, gaslit. Like
just a little.
Let me just reverse everything we said last week. We didn't mean any of it. Like this team is good again. What are your thoughts on week 10? It's so fun talking about this. Like it was a fun season.
It really was. Like as I was like going through all of the games, and yeah, the first half was bad, but it's just insane to me how quickly things were able to turn around. Like really all it took was a game or two, and they were back to themselves. It was pretty impressive.
And I know we're talking about the offense a lot, but defense really like flipped into high gear. And I mean, they were a huge part of that Week 10 win. I think they had 2 interceptions, almost had the ass catch. So it was a good night for everyone, and we were feeling good.
Yeah, it was. Actually, Dawson in the comments said talking about the Week 9 game versus the Cardinals, he said that was the defense's worst game. And I don't think they had a bad game really after that. Like they were they really were locked in after that. And credit to D'Amico Ryans, who,
right, because they
got
definitely
their head
had
in the
bad
game
games before that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But Week 11 versus the Jags was not one of those bad games. Mitchell was out in this game, but it was all good because it's the Jags. No one's really scared of them. But that also didn't mean much with this 49ers team because, they could have just as easily reverted back to their old bad selves, but they kept it going in this game. And Ayuk was heavily involved. He was like officially out of the doghouse, we might say. And Bosa, he kept doing his thing. We were talking about him potentially being a defensive player of the year candidate. And man, they were just rolling.
Yeah. Shockingly, we both predicted that the 49ers would beat the Jaguars. So nailed that one. Yeah. Week 12 against the Vikings, you called this dub. I thought they were going to lose to good old Kirk. And this was when we started having fun with the predictions, because this is, as we know, like, it's crazy looking back that from week 12 on, every single game was a must-win game in order to make the playoffs. So that was a huge win against the Vikings. Mitchell and Greenlaw were back. Mitchell emerged as an offensive rookie of the year candidate. I mean, doing things that no rookie running back has ever done for the 49ers before. Debo, Ayuk, and Jennings, they all continued to ball. This was kind of when Jennings started to really emerge as a third wide receiver on this team, and really considering Debo like wide receiver too, right? Since Debo's a wide back. The running game was on fire, but Greenlaw got hurt again, and Debo and Warner were hurt, and Trey Sermon was carted off. So it was kind of like, we're rolling, but are we rolling? If you know what I mean. It was you never want to see players on the ground, especially when you're in a playoff race.
Yeah, for sure. That was it was obviously a big win, but I mean, again, the injuries are just always seem to follow this team. And, for a team that had these playoff aspirations, suddenly it was like, oh, are we really going to be able to do this without, all our best players? But in week 13, they played the Seahawks. Again, we mentioned it. The Seahawks own the Niners. But of course, Debo and Fred Warner were out. Like, that's huge. I feel like it might have been a different game, had they been in there, especially Debo. And this was really one of the low points for the special teams unit. Probably their worst game.
I have to laugh.
I mean, shit. I think we were so mad at the special teams after this game.
Yeah.
They allowed that fake punt touchdown, which pretty much just, opened the game wide open for the Seahawks. And
not only, like, it's one thing to allow the first down on a fake punt, but a fake punt touchdown, like, that was just demoralizing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No excuse.
Yeah, Seahawks still on the Niners, we know. It'll tale as old as time. So, actually, Steph, you predicted that was going to be a win. I called the loss. I'm a genius. I'm just kidding. I think I said that was going to be a loss because they were in Seattle, and I was like, no, we don't do that. We don't win in Seattle. So, week 14 against the Bengals, we know this was a dub. I was actually kind of worried about this game. Obviously, not like looking at the Bengals. I wish we were in the Super Bowl because we could beat the Bengals. We can beat the Bengals, but we're not there. It's fine. Anyway,
okay.
We both
just happy thoughts. Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. We both knew this was going to be a dub. I don't know why we were so confident, but we just wrote the Bengals off. Mitchell and Dante Johnson were out. Ambry Thomas started. Debo returned. Kittle went off. Ayuk scored the game-winning touchdown in overtime, and the defense and D'Amico got a lot of praise for shutting down that potent Bengals offense. That was a actually huge win, really, in the grand scheme of things. And
Oh yeah.
I won't bring it up anymore, but just knowing what we know now, it's just like it's so frustrating, man. That was a great game.
It was a really good game, really fun game. And really after that it was like, wow, like I think we can really do this, because when you go against high powered offenses like the Bengals were at that time, and still are, it really gives you like a confidence boost, and like you could do that same or have that same performance against other teams. So like really like it became the beginning of not being scared of other offenses.
Yeah, that 100% agree. It was definitely a confidence booster. And then they had the Falcons the next week, which we both also said was going to be a dub. What happened that game?
But I do remember when we did the preview, because when we did our predictions, the ones you're talking about, that was in the beginning of the season,
right?
Before we knew anything. And I was like, when we were doing the preview before or after week 14, I was like, this could potentially be a trap game. Like, you can't get too confident. You're coming off an OT win. Like the Falcons, they suck, but they can still beat you.
Absolutely.
So, but the 49ers, they hit it all in stride. They were still hot. Mitchell, Alshire, and Maurice Hurst were out in this game, but it was okay because Fred Warner was back to all-pro Fred. There was a lot of talk in the beginning of the season that Fred Warner was trying to do too much. Really, in the second half of the season, he kind of settled in and remembered who the fuck he was. And Jeff Wilson Jr., I mean, he went off in this game as well as the entire offense was kind of in their bag. Bosa, he was still being dominant
Bosa.
as he is. Yeah, he's still being Bosa. And Debo, he knocked out some dude's mouthpiece, and that's one of my favorite plays of the season, I think, or just one of the more memorable plays, because that just encapsulates everything that Debo is.
Yeah, was that the game that he had like the injury scare? Do you remember where he kind of?
I feel like he had a few injury scares.
That's true. That's true.
I'm like, which one?
So as we know, week 16 against the Titans, this was a hard loss.
16. Sorry, I just intrusive thought how to get that out.
Yeah, core memory unlocked. We both predicted this L. Actually, we both respect Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
They didn't even have Derrick Henry, which is crazy.
Insane.
So this was a really annoying loss because playoffs were like right there, right? We got to win every game. Garoppolo played really poorly and hurt his thumb. That was when the UCL tear report came out that it likely needs surgery. And then I'm just laughing at the next note. John Lynch liked a tweet about leaving Jimmy in Tennessee.
Never a dull moment with this team. Like, literally, like, what even?
Dude, it's so funny.
Week 16, like,
you're
on your way to the playoffs, and your GM is accidentally liking a tweet about leaving the quarterback in Tennessee. Accidentally in church, yes.
At night. John, you naughty boy.
John.
So yeah, that was tumultuous. But yeah, what happened week 17? It was an exciting one. Why?
Well, it was a win against the Texans. They had Mitchell back, so that's always good. Wishnowsky was out. Oh no, what would they do without Wishnowsky? No. Jimmy was out. Oh no, Trey Lance. No. But Trey Lance got the start, which we're all very excited about. Actually, like this late in the season, I was a little nervous about it, because like we mentioned, every game was a must-win game, and then we saw how Trey Lance looked or at least the game plan for Trey Lance looked in the previous game. So we were like, is he ready? Like, what is this going to look like? What were you going to say?
The Texans had just demolished the Chargers.
True.
Prior,
oh my God.
Prior to this game. So it was like,
forgot about that.
Okay, maybe don't take them lightly.
Oh no. I mean, and it was pretty, up and down in the first half. There were some nice plays there, but all in all, a little shaky rookie performance from Lance, but he improved as the game went on. Like he continued to look better and better. And once again, the Trey Lance should start crowd, had little more to say after this game in week 17 when we were on the cusp of a playoff berth.
That's a little nuts.
I know.
It got a little nuts. It got a little nuts.
It got weird.
That. Yeah.
It got weird.
Continue your thought. Continue talking about.
Yeah. There's still more notes here. Oh my gosh. Yeah. and then Trent Williams got hurt, which is always never a good thing. Yeah. And the defense, as we know, they had a great game against the Texans, which you would expect, you would hope for. And after that win, it officially became a winning season for this team, which was a big deal considering, how bad it looked in the first half, right? So, kudos for that win.
Yeah, went from 3-5 to a winning season. And they closed it out week 18 against the Rams. Trent Williams was inactive. Quan Williams was inactive, and Azeez was also inactive. But Mosley, Greenlaw, and Jimmy returned. Hail Jimmy, he's back.
Hallelujah.
The 49ers went sorry, hallelujah. They went down 17-0 very early. At one point, they had a 0% or like 0.0, the lowest percentage you could have of winning a game. They were not going to win this game, but then they went full bully ball on the Rams. Cry about it, LA. Debo did all. He threw a touchdown pass, which I believe was that did they tie it at 17?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he threw the game tying touchdown pass, and then Juwan Jennings just had himself a day. Wishnowsky got hurt. Is he injury prone? We should not bring him back next year.
Should we talk about it?
And Gold was on punt duty, and he killed it, dude. He is a much better punter than Wishnowsky is a kicker. Another fun little fact we learned this season. Eric Armstead played out of his mind, as he did all season. Shout out Eric. And Ambry Thomas had the game-sealing interception. The sky was the limit. The sky was the limit at that point, man.
It's just like towards the end, all those wins, so many players were involved in those wins. And so like I think that's what gave me the most satisfaction and made me feel good about them going to the playoffs, because I feel like in the playoffs, you got to be able to win a multitude of ways. And I felt like they did that in those last few games of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Those playoff games, is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about regular season?
Well, both.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. And in the divisional round, yeah, that's where we're at. Right.
No, we're at the Wildcard Weekend.
Let me not skip that one. So Wildcard Weekend, obviously it's you win and you move forward, you lose and you get sent to your couch. So this was obviously a huge game. They beat the Cowboys in Jerry World, and they were the underdog the whole time. Pretty much the entire playoffs, they were the underdog. So, I like the way that they stepped up. Bosa and Warner left the game early. So, again, it was like, oh, shit. Like, are we going to be able to pull this off? Jimmy suffered his shoulder injury, which we didn't actually learn about till after the game.
Yeah.
But that explained a lot. But yeah, they were able to get the win and advance to the divisional round.
That was like I mean, so many good memories from, Ryan just commented that beating the Cowboys was so satisfying. It really was, because they just really thought they had it. And same with the Packers the next week. I feel like they were really offended by our confidence in this team, and thinking that the Niners were going to win. Honestly, the divisional round against the Packers, one of my favorite 49er games ever. Just because, like, it obviously there weren't that many amazing things that happened that game, but there were enough just amazing, improbable things that happened that just made it one of the most insane games I've ever watched in my life. Like, it was like 1 degree outside. Like, think about that in itself. And then, it's Aaron Rodgers, the league MVP, one of the best passing quarterbacks of all time. And you hold him to his lowest scoring output in his playoff career. And then to have it end on a but to tie the game on a special teams blocked punt, and then win the game with a field goal after they smited us and won on a field goal earlier in the season in week 3. It was just like poetic, dude. That was my favorite game of the season by far.
It was definitely very emotional, like, because I was already ready to like pack it up and pack it up as if I played. I was ready to like say the season was over, like this was a great season, like thank you for all the memes. But that block punt was just amazing. I think it's going to be ingrained in 49ers playoff history, regardless of how the season ended, right? Like, I think that it was that big of a play. And I think the biggest thing was the fact that the 49ers didn't have a lead at any point in regulation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And it was all for nothing, because why?
Stop. The 49ers, they advanced to the NFC Championship game, and as we know, they did not win. Trent Williams, I don't know why I put Trent Williams was out. He played. Sorry, bad note there. The defense, they fought hard ultimately, like, and I truly believe this. The Rams were just the better team that day, and we can still hang our head high. I think going through all of these games, which we just did right now, I really feel like I'm still proud of what they were able to accomplish this season, all the adversity that they were able to, overcome, and all of the drama. There was a lot of outside noise surrounding this team, especially like in the beginning of the season around like the quarterback position and all of that. And they were able to turn all of that into a positive. And I still think it was a success of a season.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've said this so many times, but like, it exceeded our wildest expectations. And yeah, definitely hats off to Jordan Willis. That was just like that right there. Jordan Willis, just shows how so many different players on this team had incredible moments throughout the season. And even though it didn't end the way that fans would have wanted it to, I mean, like, there were so many things to be happy about, not just making the NFC Championship game. I mean, like, think about Elijah Mitchell and the rookie season he had. Think about the season Deebo Samuel had. Like, Deebo's season in itself, like, makes this season a success to me. Like, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I agree. And I hope he can do more of that. Like, I'm pretty hopeful he'll be able to. I think, like we mentioned, it is just the beginning for him. But yeah, what a season for him, and how he was able to not turn his career around, because he was already good, but it's just like he really put himself in that tier 1 of receivers and even running backs. Hell.
Yeah, we'll give it to him. My favorite wide back. I don't know about you. So knowing what we know now, let's, retrospectively look at this season. Do you think it was a good thing for Brandon Ayuk to kind of be beaten down and put in his place the first few weeks of the season and have to earn his position in this offense, be in the doghouse per se?
Yeah. I know that Kyle Shanahan gets a lot of criticism for how he deals with certain players and, if they underperform and how he puts them in the doghouse. Regardless of how you feel about it, I think Ayuk did respond well to it and it worked for him. We've seen it now work for other players. But I do think, it built probably some character for Ayuk and it built some motivation and drive. And obviously he was able to turn that into a productive season. And that's exactly what you want out of your players. If you put a player in the doghouse and they don't respond well, is that really the kind of guy you want in your locker room? So I think Ayuk set a great example to other players on this team for how they should handle that.
Yeah, I like how everyone was concerned when, Sherfield was getting more action than Ayuk, but then once Ayuk got out of the doghouse and was obviously getting a lot more action than Sherfield, we're all just kind of like, meh. Like no one cared. No one was like, well, what's the matter with Sherfield? Like, But I mean, that's just obviously when
that was wild though. That was wild that ever happened. I mean,
yeah. Fun times. So this is a little more difficult of a question, but knowing what we know now, which isn't much,
exactly.
Were they smart to draft Trey Lance and give up as much as they did?
First, the way I want to answer this is just by saying that, we don't know a lot because we haven't seen Trey Lance start like a full season. We haven't seen him be the QB1 on this team quite yet, so we don't know exactly what he's going to be. But the reason that I put this question on here was because I think we are now seeing how poor of a draft class this is for quarterbacks in this year. And so when you look at that, I think they made a really good decision to move up for the guy that they really wanted last year instead of not drafting a quarterback at all, let's say, and, trying to get a quarterback this year. Because it's going to be kind of tough with some of the quarterbacks coming in the draft this year. And I don't know, they were in that range that they could go for a quarterback. So I'm not mad at how much they gave up for him. Also, what we now can look at the fact that they've gotten so many compensatory picks for losing Robert Saleh, losing Martin Mayhew, and now Mike McDaniel. I mean, I think they knew Mike McDaniel was probably out of the door like this season or next. So they knew those picks. They knew they were going to get these picks. So looking at all of that and like the full context of everything, I feel like they were really smart to give up those picks. And now they're going to get some picks for Jimmy Garoppolo. So like in a way, they gave up a lot. They're going to get a lot of those picks back. So I love the move even more now than I did then.
I have so many thoughts about this and have for almost a year now, right? That's how long we've had to chew on this. And it was such an interesting turn of events. I mean, we've seen the Rams and how they treat their draft picks like they're a cousin that they've met once and could care less about and just, send them off. Look where it's gotten them, right? It's worked out amazingly for the Rams. We don't know enough about Trey Lance yet. Exactly what you said. We don't know if it was, I mean, we can say it was a good decision, but we don't know ultimately how it's going to turn out yet. We can hope for the best.
Yeah.
My whole thing, it was such a turn of events because the plan in the offseason, as we know, was to get a veteran quarterback, right? We offered a deal for Matthew Stafford. We inquired about Aaron Rodgers. We know they were extremely interested in Deshaun Watson before all of the rumors and allegations about him came out. So it was just a lot to go from wanting a veteran quarterback to completely change course and say, we're going to draft a rookie quarterback now. Especially when you're not going to start him this year. You're going to use Jimmy for a whole entire year anyway. So why not wait until after this year and use those first round picks to maybe trade for a veteran quarterback this offseason. I think it ultimately will end up being a good decision. I think there's nothing like drafting a quarterback and developing him yourself and developing your franchise quarterback as opposed to going out and getting one. But it's interesting. Like, it's going to be crazy to look back in like 2 or 3 years and be like, did they make the right decision? Because I don't know, it honestly just felt like they panicked almost, knowing that they were going after veteran quarterbacks and kind of switched courses. But I don't know. I can't call it. I can't say if it was smart or not yet. I do think it was a wild time to be a 49er fan, and I think we're all just, Kyle included, hoping it works out.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And that was a spiel. I don't even know if it made sense. You know what I'm saying?
It did. I think the reason they looked at like veteran quarterbacks was because I think they were hoping that they would be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo last
for one of those. Yeah.
But I mean, that didn't work out, and so not the worst plan B, I must say, but
no, definitely not. And I'm excited for Trey Lance. Like, I am so stoked next season. And on that note, are you happy with the fact? Are you happy with the fact that Trey Lance was not QB1 this year, knowing what we know now and how the season ended and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I was always like content with, okay, not always. That's not true. I think like early in the season or before the season started, like I still had some hope. It sounds terrible right now, but I had hope that, someone would trade for Garoppolo. That didn't end up happening. And I still wanted Trey Lance to start, or at least like acknowledge it as a competition, right? Like and I think it was, but the fact that they never called it that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I mean, once I got over that hump and I finally like realized, okay, this is their plan, like I accepted it. I was fine with Jimmy Garoppolo starting. And then once they got to that point in the season where things started turning around, then I really was okay with it, right? Because then I saw, I guess, the value of Jimmy Garoppolo, or just like the team loved him. You can tell a lot of these players were playing for him, especially in like the second half of the season and into the playoffs. Like that became pretty obvious. So, I'm not mad at it. And I think Trey Lance was able to learn a lot in this time. And, he did get a chance to play after all. He did get those 2 starts. So at least he did end up getting a taste of, being a starter. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, it was, what made it so complicated is that obviously we follow all of these people that are at training camp and watching this competition. And when you look at the numbers, it seems like Trey Lance should have beat out Jimmy Garoppolo, but for whatever reason, they decided that Jimmy gave them the best chance to win. They went to the NFC Championship game. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with the decision they made. Like, we don't know what would have happened if Trey Lance was starting. They might have, maybe he would have been the first rookie quarterback to ever win the Super Bowl. Maybe, but probably not, So I can't help but be satisfied, and I'm ready for him to take what he learned this year and put everything into next season and go back to the NFC Championship game. I'm like Jimmy. I got no regrets from this season. Just eyes forward.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So looking forward to next season, besides Trey Lance, who is the one player that you are most excited to watch?
I'm going to say Juwan Jennings.
Nice.
He's a player I really liked this year and what he's been able to do. Like, so underrated, his usage on this team and his role. so he had 30 catches this year, which is not much. But when you think about the fact that 19 of them went for first downs and he had 5 touchdowns on top of that, like I'd say that's pretty impressive. And this was his first season getting like real playing time, and he was able to do that. I feel really good about him going into next season and seeing what he does with Trey Lance.
Yeah, we're both like on the same wavelength, except my pick was Brandon Ayuk because
nice.
I don't know, something
like
special about that third season. You know, you're not a rookie anymore. You're not really fresh and green, but you're still young and excited. But you kind of have that feeling like, you know, you're a veteran and you're on this team like Debo this year. Yes. I mean, all-time confidence. His confidence was at an all-time high. So I'm hoping that Brandon Ayuk has that same third season effect just going through his body. And again, just like you said, especially with Trey Lance and this offense that they're hopefully able to put together, I think it's going to be really exciting. So as we know, you know, what's next? We know that Garoppolo is likely to be traded this offseason. What do you think they could get for Jimmy? I've seen people throwing out potential trade packages and stuff. So do you think he's worthy of a first round pick?
Is he worthy? No, probably not. But do I think they can potentially get that for him? Maybe. I mean, we saw Carson Wentz go for a first.
And teams are desperate.
Third, I think, too, last year. Yeah, teams are going to be desperate. Obviously, every team, even the ones that have no chance, are going to be on Aaron Rodgers' watch, right? So, you know, I think there's a few teams that are going to be in on him, but only one team can end up with him, and all of the rest are going to be scrambling, trying to figure out what to do.
It's like the Lord of the Rings.
do they like any of the, quarterbacks in the draft? That's another question. I think there might be some that could pan out into something, but day one starter, maybe not. And so I think Jimmy Garoppolo, his value is in being a bridge quarterback, I think, right now.
Yeah.
And he would be the perfect bridge quarterback, like the best bridge quarterback there ever was.
Yeah, I mean, he basically was just a bridge quarterback for us this season, right?
Yeah, so. And I don't think he'll be in a situation as good as, with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, but I think there are a couple teams that give him a good shot at winning because he's mentioned that's what he wants. So
yeah.
But what do you think, though? I mean, what do you think they could get for him?
I mean, I don't think they'll get a first round pick for him. That's just me. But again, it depends on how all the dominoes fall, just like you said. It's hard to say because like you said, Carson Wentz got a first round pick. So just depends on how desperate teams are. I think a second would be more realistic, possibly even a third. It's going to be interesting to see. I think no matter what happens, there's going to be people on both sides that think it's either too much or too little. So
I mean, hope I'd be happy with anything.
Exactly. I'm happy with his millions of dollars out of the cap personally. So
yeah,
but I hope he goes to a team with a chance to win. We wish him all the best. We talked about this last episode. Speaking of cap, the team has said they have budgeted for Bosa and Debo extensions. So would love them to get on that because I'm trying to buy my Debo jersey and I just want it to be a sure thing. And Trey Lance, Nate Sudfeld, 209 native Nate Sudfeld, and Brandon Ayuk will train together in SoCal this offseason, which, makes me wonder, is Nate Sudfeld going to be QB2 next season? Like, are they going to go out and sign a veteran backup? Like, I'm really curious to see what happens. There's so much to talk about, from draft needs to pending free agents, and we're going to hit it all next week because we're not going anywhere. But that's all we got for this episode. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe on this video at youtube.com/Dragosaurus. Follow us on Twitter at 49kpod, and you can listen to this where all podcasts are available to stream. Steph, is there anything you wanted to say before we head out?
No, I'm just, after a week that I've had time to reflect on it, I feel really good about the season. I'm really proud of this team, and I'm very excited for the future. There's going to be a lot of changes this offseason. It's going to be a pretty entertaining offseason, I think. So I can't wait to continue talking about it all.
Yes, and we're coming up on our 1 year Annie. I don't know.
Oh,
I'll have to look it up, but we'll have a party.
our first episode
or something. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next week. So until then, peace.
Peace.